Talk Business Arkansas is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau, the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, Noble Strategies, the Arkansas Healthcare Association, and Delta Trust and Bank.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business Arkansas update. Lots of news from the state capitol, plus your business headlines. Let's dive right in. A sluggish March state revenue report resulted in lower personal income tax collections and sales taxes. The March report provided by the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration showed net available general revenues of $346 million, 2.8% below last year and 4.2% below forecast in a March-over-March comparison. Year-to-date, net available general revenues at the 9-month mark totaled $3.5 billion, up 4.7% above year-ago levels and 2.5% above forecast. An analyst watching contract negotiations between the Teamsters and Arkansas Best Freight System says it's a good sign negotiations were recently extended, and adds that Arkansas Best needs wage concessions and work rule flexibility to remain competitive. Negotiations got off to a rocky start in December when company and Teamster officials issued less than kind statements about each other's negotiating positions. Last week, both sides issued more positive statements about the contract extension. Bentonville-based Collective Bias has secured $10.5 million in investment to fund an expansion that could add 50 jobs to the company, with 25 of those planned for Northwest Arkansas. The Series A investment round was led by Updata Partners. When we come back from this word from our sponsors, we'll dive into today's political headlines from the state capitol, big action on the Big River Steel Super Project, as well as the health insurance private option expansion. Plus, John Brummett from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette joins me. All of this right after this word.
I don't think it's going to be an easy conversation because they are very strong-willed. I think it's going to be important to us that we know that you're somewhere in a facility that looks after you, has compassion, has care, and you respect it. I mean, I'd love to look after them, I'd love to be able to take care of them, but I don't think I could. That'd be a wrong choice on my part.
Arkansas's skilled nursing and assisted living centers provide quality care for our seniors.
Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.
The Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. The State Chamber AIA is the leading voice for business at the state capitol and serves as the primary business advocate on all issues affecting Arkansas employers. Our mission is to promote a pro-business, free enterprise agenda and prevent anti-business legislation, regulations, and rules. Now more than ever, business matters. Learn more at arkansasstatechamber.com.
Now to your top political headlines. Top business blogger Michael Cook reports that Democratic gubernatorial candidate Bill Halter raised over $1 million for the first quarter of 2013. However, Halter made a personal loan of $640,000 to his campaign. In the time frame of January 1st to March 31st of this year, he raised $360,000 from various donors. Halter entered the governor's race on January 31st. Senator Jonathan Dismang, a Republican from Beebe, will be the Senate President pro tem for the 2015 General Assembly, it appears. Senate rules prescribe that senators select their next leader before adjournment of the regular session. Dismang was the only candidate to apply for the post by a Wednesday 5 p.m. deadline. That's according to Talk Business blogger Jason Tolbert. A bill that lays out the framework for a private option health insurance expansion using Medicaid money cleared the Senate Public Health Committee on Wednesday. Lawmakers are considering using federal Medicaid dollars to subsidize low-income workers purchasing health insurance in a forthcoming insurance exchange. Also, the Big River Steel enabling legislation, which cleared the Senate on Tuesday, passed out of a House Economic Development panel on Wednesday. The bill lays out the terms of the agreement between Arkansas and the $1.1 billion steel mill project. Of course, you can keep up with all of the top political and business news from around the state on our website at talkbusinessarkansas.com. When we come back from this word from our sponsors, I'll sit down with John Brummett, political columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business.
Noble Strategies is a bipartisan state and federal government affairs firm with a successful track record of providing effective advocacy for business, government, and nonprofit entities. Noble Strategies provides service in areas such as lobbying, public affairs, trade association management, and marketing campaigns. Learn more at noblestrat.com.
I was looking for a bank that could best protect my finances.
That shared my passion for my business's potential.
A bank that offered investment expertise,
lending support, insurance guidance.
A bank that delivered full financial support.
That's how I found True Balance.
True Balance.
From my bank.
From my bank.
Delta Trust and Bank, the expertise to meet all your financial needs.
One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are Arkansas.
Joining me now is John Brummett. He's a political columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to have you with us.
Always good to be with you.
Best session ever for you? The most fun
Yes.
you've ever had at a legislative
Yes.
session?
Yes, yes.
What makes it so fun?
I just did a tweet that said this could be both, it's like a start of a novel, the worst of sessions and the best of sessions. A lot of constitutionally dubious, socially conservative extremism, guns and abortion unchecked, going right through. And yet, possibly at the end, we're going to effect this soft, synchronized landing between tax cuts and expanding Medicaid, in which this new Republican majority is going to, in a modified way, embrace, sort of, Obamacare and extend health care in Arkansas. It's close to happening. I don't want to jinx it by saying it's going to happen, but that would be a remarkable ending and a remarkable dichotomy in this session. Both, I think, the worst and the best.
How do you think they have managed to accomplish appeasing this right flank of the Republican Party? There's going to be some no votes there, but they've brought some folks into the fold, particularly on this Medicaid private option deal. That's really a pretty politically stunning accomplishment when you get down to it.
And they haven't brought everybody, and I'm not sure they've brought enough to get a 3/4 vote, but maybe they have. But there have been a couple of good outside independent reports that say this is actually the most fiscally responsible thing to do, that this would work more economically in the long run than strict Medicaid expansion, even better in some ways, maybe not straight dollar for dollar, but even better than doing nothing and letting uncompensated care continue to go unchecked and letting the state Medicaid budget perhaps explode. What if we do nothing and the 40,000 people now eligible for Medicaid then sign up for Medicaid and we have to do a 70-30 match? So it is this idea, well, not this idea, I think this truth, this is actually the smart fiscally conservative thing to do. And you just have to get these folks to accept that and then be confident that they can convey that to the folks back home who elected them to go to Little Rock mainly and do one thing, stop Obamacare.
Right.
So when they go back and say, couldn't do that, but here's what I did do. It may be counterintuitive, but actually saved you money. That's sort of how that's happened.
We had Speaker of the House, Davy Carter, actually quoted yesterday on the Talk Business website saying that by embracing the private option, you are in fact opposing Obamacare.
Whatever they have to say, Roby. You know, I mean, I saw Representative Burris yesterday. I said, let's just put up a grandstand out here and gather all the conservatives and let you all say the things you need to say in order to cast this logical vote. If they say this is actually a rejection of Obamacare, when in fact it imposes Obamacare, I don't care. I want everybody to be happy. I want people to be insured. I want all the benefits of this expansion, and I want everybody to sell it to their folks however they need to.
Ultra-conservatives are putting up a big fight against the private option as well as the Big River Steel project. They've got to be disappointed that here they've gone and finally helped elect a Republican majority for the first time in over 138 years, and they're not going to win on those two big issues.
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
You keep saying that this is done.
They could still win.
When they get that 76th vote in the House, I will, then I'll say yes. But yeah, I just love irony, and there's some rich irony here. I mean, we got the single most conservative, extreme conservative, ultra-right, hard-right legislators in our history as part of a revolutionary Republican takeover of our legislature, and we're gonna spend billions in federal money to expand health care under the Obama Health Care Act, and we're probably, almost certainly, going to throw $125 million at a jobs increase at a steel mill. Government subsidy of the private sector. It's rich with irony, and I just stand back and marvel and enjoy.
It's the thing newspaper columnists love to write about.
Well, I like it. I like it. I do.
So let's turn our attention to Governor Mike Beebe, who at the center of all of this political revolution, as you've kind of described it, a moderate to maybe right-of-center candidate at times. He's going to be presiding over all this change. It looks like if things go as I have predicted that they might, he wins.
Right.
Again,
right.
Bucking conventional wisdom.
Right. I said before the session that all this talk that he's our greatest governor ever. Not so. Not so. He's in the top 5, I said. But if, in this environment, with this legislature, he gets Medicaid expansion, we need to chisel his face on Mount Magazine. And I think he took that seriously, and he's looking for a chiseler now to get started. And the thing about this session is everything that he's done, every concession he's made, every maneuver he's made, I think has been done in concert with his good Republican friends, Lamoureux and Carter. And that every move David Carter has made, it's all been with the eye on the ball, which was, at the end, we're going to cut taxes $100 million, and we're going to pass this health care deal. And he will have looked, but all of them will have looked inept along the way. They will look like they've had their losses in the courts. Beebe's been overridden, and he doesn't enjoy that. But their eyes have been on this ball, and this is the big story. I mean, the other things, we're going to have lawsuits over the abortion stuff. We still love guns in Arkansas. That's not seminal. This is kind of seminal to do a major healthcare expansion like this.
We still have another big piece of the puzzle to come in the legislative session, and that's constitutional amendments. We were just talking with the state senator earlier about the potential ethics reform measure. It looks like some version of tort reform is going to be referred out to a vote of the people. I guess, first of all, what do you think about those two issues? I mean, are those going to appeal in some sort of populist way to voters?
The term limit, before we do that, the tort reform. This is really big. The legislature doesn't like that it tried in legislation some time back to cap medical malpractice damages. The Supreme Court said that's our business, threw it out. So now they want to undo that. The question is, how far do you go for the legislature to take over the judicial branch and the way the judicial branch works? One of the bills in its original form was draconian. The other one was more trial lawyer friendly. Something between them, and that will probably come out, and I think with the money that will be behind them, the voters of Arkansas are inclined to try to stop all these lawyers from getting in the way of all of our affordable health care and that sort of thing. I think that has a chance to prevail. The other is to do the regular populist ethics reform. No gifts to legislators, a Walmart rule, and couple other things that escape me right now. You could probably help me with those. But
Well, there's the potential for term limits. You've got
oh,
the
well,
cap
other
on
two issues.
contributions.
I mean, and the other, but it's been paired with extending term limits and raising salaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that's a loser. I just do. I think we've been down the term limits road, that people like term limits, and I think this notion that you're going to that you will be ethical if you'll raise my salary, which is how I'll write about it, is not going to prevail. I think the reformers, the good government people, Better Ethics Now and Regnant Populists will be better off, in my view, separating from this deal and raising their money and doing their petitions and trying to get it that way.
Interesting. Biggest kind of legislator surprise of this session, we kind of going into it, you know, we were wondering how would Speaker Carter do, how would Michael Lamoureux do. There's been some surprises, we say David Sanders, Jonathan Dismang, Bruce Westerman, John Burris kind of inserting themselves in a lot of the public debate up here. Is there anyone you kind of look at and you say this was a real surprise to me to see this type of leadership or this type of visibility in the session?
And I have to be careful how I answer this, because it sounds like you thought somebody wasn't very smart and they showed themselves to be, and that's not what I mean. But I'm
inclined to say they became a player in this session when it may not have been expected.
The names you
they
mentioned, the young Republicans who, at the invitation of Lamoureux and Carter, said, go study this health care, Medicaid, and come up with something. Young conservative Republicans who realized early on that doing nothing was not a good option, and who came up with this private option that is truly, though some Democrats don't want to admit it, innovative nationally, and is now known nationally as the Arkansas model. Those guys all surprised me. I used to be a column writing colleague of David Sanders. He was sort of an apprentice column writer for the Arkansas News Bureau. Smart guy, likable guy, good friend of mine. I didn't know that he would emerge as a candidate to be on Meet the Press discussing how to get red states to impose Obamacare through a private option. Dismang, also in that group. Burris, although pugnacious, and he looks like he's going to slug you every time he gives you an interview, he's not really going to, I don't think. And he's good, pretty bright on policy and intense. Westerman, and then all of them under this leadership of Lamoureux and Carter, sort of a moderate, pragmatic leadership. Those are the ones who are the stars of the session, and they're all on the Republican side, by the way. The young talent, not only have the Republicans taken over it, they've got the best farm club out here and the best Republican talent.
You surprised that Democrats haven't had a game plan for really how to
because of Democrats
run it this session?
Roby, Democrats have long in Arkansas just existed as sort of a loose, pointless coalition. We're nominal Ds, we get elected Ds, we're in charge around here, but there's no party discipline, there's no party. The party would extend from a Warwick Sabin, Kathy Webb representing Hillcrest on the left, to a good old boy out in rural Arkansas who's indistinguishable in policy from the Republicans. And they're just hanging on. They're in kind of a mess. Their candidate for re-election of the U.S. Senate is running basically as an incremental Republican. Looks like they're going to lean for governor toward a blue dog center-right guy for governor, and Mike Ross. At the moment, it looks that way. The Democrats are just trying to survive by being Republican light, or trying to just play off of what other Republicans do. They have no cohesive message.
All right. He's John Brummett. He writes for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Good to be with you as always.
Pleasure. Thanks.
All right. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
Talk Business Arkansas is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau, the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, the Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, Noble Strategies, the Arkansas Healthcare Association, and Delta Trust and Bank.